build the presentation. That's good.
Yeah, we have the framework off the bat.
Very good. Okay, well, I think we're going to start now. Okay, welcome everyone for this last webinar, spring webinar of the MBDH on the data science student groups. My name is Alice Delage and I am program manager at the Midwest Big Data Hub. I'll be your host tonight. Melissa Cragin, the director of the Midwest Big Data Hub, is unfortunately sick tonight, but she's on the call, so she can also post questions, and if you have questions for her, she'd be able to answer them, I'm sure. Tonight we're having two groups. We have a group from Minnesota State University in Mankato, and I apologize for their university having been advertised as University of Minnesota. That was a mistake. So they are up in Mankato, and their group is the DREAM group, and we have Jeremy Klein, Parker, Scott, and Alycia Holwerda, and they will introduce themselves and their respective roles in the organization. And then as a second speaker tonight, we have Timothy NeCamp from the University of Michigan, and he's the leader of the STATCOM group. And I'll introduce him afterwards. So maybe I will now let the DREAM group start their presentation, and you should be able to go ahead.
Awesome. All right, so can you guys see the slideshow all right?
Yes, we can.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you guys for having us. We're very excited to be here. My name is Jeremy Klein. I was the president of DREAM this last year. To my right over here, we have Parker Scott, who was the vice president this last year. And to my left, we have Alycia Holwerda, who was the public relations chair. So we are going to kind of do a three-way presentation today, but we're just going to kind of single out one-on-one so that way we don't have a kind of a far back frame. So let's get started. And first off, we're just going to kind of talk about DREAM's mission statement. So we like to stick true to our mission statement. We're a recognized student organization on Minnesota State University Mankato campus. We promote and support activities related to data science, data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And that's really the biggest goal of DREAM, is we want to promote, support, and encourage students to be able to gather and learn the skills and resources they need to kind of progress and enhance their learning outside of the regular curriculums that we have on campus. Like I said, the best part about DREAM is that collaboration with students. In a lot of undergrad courses, everybody gets stuck in groups that they really, the work isn't really shared equally. But with DREAM, everybody is there. We're all self-motivated. We all want to be there, and we want to turn projects into the best possibilities that they can be. And like I said, it's just a lot of topics that we don't have here at Mankato because we don't have that many data science courses or anything related to that. So we get a lot of information through DREAM, and our members are able to strive with that information. So in DREAM, we have 200 plus students, and we were founded in the fall of 2016. So only within 2 years, having 200 plus students has kind of set us as pretty much the fastest growing student organization on campus. Within the first 6 months, we had almost 100 members, which was pretty cool and got us a lot of publicity with that. And kind of got our name around campus and people started asking questions. And that is definitely just because we've slowly been incorporating more and more disciplines into our group. Initially, we were a lot of IT majors, a lot of information system majors, math and stats. But since then, we've incorporated biology majors, physics majors, business majors, and we're hoping to incorporate some psychology and sociology majors as well, just because we do believe diversity is key. Data science is a multidisciplinary field, and we understand that. And we want to have those outside perspectives from those other majors and other disciplines to kind of allow us to do bigger and better things and do things outside of just the IT world. So then DREAM is run by our executive board. We just held elections this last Wednesday on April 18th. And so we have a whole new group of members, and the only returning one is Alycia, who will be serving as the president next year, which is very exciting. The elections are ran, and we're open to any member in DREAM can run, but it's very crucial to the success of DREAM with the outcome of these elections, because this is where we choose our leaders and who's going to help us achieve things in the future for the next year to come. And a lot of responsibilities come with that. And that's why these people need to be very dependable, very responsible and on top of their schoolwork, as well as like their jobs and stuff like that, to make sure that they're there every week. We normally have bi-weekly meetings, and so on the meetings that we don't have our regular DREAM meetings, we have executive meetings. So as an executive on the DREAM board, you're required to be there every week, which can be pretty time consuming, but it's definitely worth it because it allows us to plan and kind of figure out what we're going to do in the weeks to come and months, and just make sure everything is on track. So now I'm going to kind of get into some of the responsibilities of the executive members, just so you guys can kind of understand the back end of how DREAM is ran. So first off, we have our advisor, Dr. Alycia, who helps us out a lot. But then we have the president, and our president's responsibilities are to keep the organization on track with our mission statement, which is really important to us because we do not want to stray from that. We just want to continue to provide students the opportunities they need to learn and grow on their own. And the president is also the main spokesperson and contact for DREAM. So when people want to get involved, they want to learn more about it, they email me directly at the time, or next year they'll be emailing Alycia. But this just kind of helps us direct them to the right resources and the right information. We do have a page up on the university with a ton of information, and it can be really confusing for students who haven't been to DREAM before. So just being able to talk to the president, I think, really puts on a good face for DREAM, and starts it off right when students come and join our organization. The president is also responsible for fulfilling Mankato state requirements to be a recognized student organization, and there's just a lot of processes and stuff that go along with that. But as long as we get everything taken care of, it's never a big deal. So then on to the vice president. The vice president stands in for the president when necessary, obviously. They work with the president to pursue our mission and stay registered as an organization. And that's kind of a key thing, is they work with the president. On our executive board, it's a very horizontal structure. Nobody is really in charge over anybody else. We all just have different responsibilities that we like to make sure get done, get completed. And we work together. Everybody's opinion matters just as much as anybody else's, and nobody really dominates any meetings. There's no really authoritarian figures or anything like that. So it's a really cool environment and a really cool group of people to be a part of. So the vice president also promotes DREAM alongside with our public relations chair, and they also book our rooms and track attendance of our members. And then we have our secretary. Our secretary, they advertise our meetings, they advertise our activity times and locations. They take a lot of meeting notes as far as like who comes and speaks, as well as communicate those notes with the members so that when members aren't able to come that week, they can get the information they need and stay versed on what we're doing and what we're getting involved in. That way they don't really miss out on stuff. But the secretary also keeps all DREAM-related forms, like we have a constitution with our organization, as well as a lot of other RSO information that goes along with the university. They also maintain the roster of active DREAM members, just because we do have people that do drop out of DREAM, or we have people graduate. And we want to make sure we have a solid roster so the university knows exactly how big we are, because that just helps us with university funding and stuff like that. And then we move on to the treasurer. So the treasurer of DREAM is responsible for all financial actions within DREAM, and that includes collections and depositing of all the financial acquisitions we get when we put events on. They maintain and organize our DREAM accounts and records with the school. We have a school bank account with the university, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that. So having a position dedicated and having someone that's well-versed in those processes really helps us out, really keeps things timely, keeps things efficient, and helps us move forward as an organization faster. The treasurer also helps coordinate travel and lodging for DREAM events, as well as when we send like hackathon teams and stuff like that. They will request student activity council funding. And we get funding from the university per student that's attending those things, but it all has to be done by our treasurer. So like I said, just making sure we have someone that's understanding of those processes is very important to us. And then we're kind of moving to the public relations chair. So we added the public relations chair to our board initially because we realized that being a data science club on campus, we weren't very popular at first, and we really needed to have someone that was going to be in charge of recruiting new members, and that's kind of where the public relations chair came in. So they secure sponsorships for DREAM as well, and they publicize our events on our social media accounts, as well as collaborating with our advisor to bring in speakers every week, and they send out thank you notes to those speakers after they come in, as well as keep correspondence with those speakers, because We like to keep a good relationship with the industry folk that come down and speak to us because we're very grateful for them to come. And we want to keep that relationship in case they do ever want to come back or we end up collaborating with them in the future. And then we added another position of the web development lead. And that lead basically maintains and updates our Dream webpage. And that'll actually hopefully be live this coming year. So when we do tell people about our organization, we'll have an actual website they can go to. It's looking pretty good right now, but it still has a few kinks that need to be worked out. But the web development also assists PR with social media output, just because we do try to stay on top of it and try to stay really active and make sure that people know what's going on in Dream. Just the power of social media is so big, and we want to make sure we're involved in that. And then we also added a graphic design lead. And we realized that graphic design plays a pretty big role because when you can take good videos, take good photos of our events, you can really make us look a lot better as an organization, makes us look a lot more professional. But they also design and create all our web media, our posters, handouts, and flyers that we put around campus, which draws a lot of people to our events. So then we're going to move into the funding of Dream. So like I said, our public relations chair is in charge of acquiring funding, acquiring sponsorships, and things like that. But we do have a lot of industry sponsors that have been very generous to us in the past. And because we keep those relationships, they continue to help us out. And they stay involved with Dream. And we invite them to various networking events that we've had, at different activities that we hold. And the next point there is events. And that is another big source of income for us. It's nice to be very budgeted and be very on top of what we need when we do those events so we can have some overflow. And that way we can kind of pad our bank account so money isn't really an issue when we want to do projects or we want to send teams to various hackathons and stuff like that. And then for the expenses that we really have, we don't have too many expenses as of now. But as our group continues to grow, there will be more expenses. We do provide food at every bi-weekly meeting, which can get to be a pretty big bill. Some meetings will have other RSO groups come as well that we also provide food for. So it's really nice to be able to have that money to provide food just because their meetings are around dinner time and they can go pretty late. And as long as everybody is pretty full and focused, it's nice to have that. But like I said earlier, we also help out with travel and competition entry fees, which is pretty cool because that way our hackathon members don't have to kind of pay their own way all the time. So Dream, we like to stick to a core net of ideas that we promote. You guys can kind of all see them on the slide. But the majority of our meetings, we have guest speakers come in from various industries, and it allows us to network and develop real relationships with industry professionals. And that's really big because as undergraduates in a data science club, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know as far as the jobs that are actually out there, because there's a lot of specific jobs and specific niches of data science. And having those people come in really helps us learn about what's out there and what we can do with our jobs and the skills that we're learning within Dream. This last semester, however, we have kind of changed and we have about half as many speakers. And then we're doing a lot more tutorials and a lot more workshops just to help our members build skills that they need to do the things they want to do outside of Dream, as well as participate in the hackathons and just kind of build skills all around so we can hopefully have more and more hackathon teams. And like I said, with hackathon teams, as we were talking about earlier, we've had a lot of success in just a short amount of time, which is pretty cool for such a new and kind of a up-and-coming club, we would like to think. But we're hoping to keep sending teams out to Mini MUDAC, stuff like that, and just continue to make a name for ourselves in the data science field. And then another thing with Dream is we are big on teamwork. We're big on problem solving and collaborative projects, and we've had a lot of cool projects come out of Dream, which we do present at other types of events that we hold and networking sessions like that. And so the next person on the screen you see is Dr. Rajiv Bukharalia. He helps us out with a lot of the specific training on data science and analytical tools. And whenever we don't know something, it's great to have an advisor like Rajiv because he is the backbone to Dream. He always knows pretty much what's going on or knows the answers to our questions, but if he doesn't, he knows where to find it or who to direct us to make sure we can get the tools that we need. And that's really awesome because he inspires us with his passion for data science. He draws kids in who have no interest in data science, and he really gets them inspired, really gets them to want to answer some questions that they don't know. And without a committed advisor like him, we would not have flourished the way we have so far, just because he is so knowledgeable, he's so well versed and up to date on the new tools and techniques used within data science practices. And he has a lot of close ties with industry professionals as well, which allows him to bring in very qualified and diverse speakers. So we get a good range of speakers who really know what they're talking about. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alycia, and she will continue.
All right, so as Jeremy was saying, we like to host bi-weekly meetings where we bring in industry professionals as well as leaders in the academic fields here at Minnesota State University, Mankato. Along with the PR chair and our backbone of the organization, Dr. Rajiv Bukralia, we are able to bring in a lot of different industry speakers. So from here we can see that many of the speakers that we have had was 3M came in this past semester where their data science team told us what they like to do on their day-to-day job and some of their aspects of their job. We've also brought in Federated Insurance, which is an insurance company around this Midwest area in Mankato. And they talked about catastrophe modeling and how they apply that to their business. Next, we brought in mini analytics. Then Aglytics, came in and spoke about how to use data science in agriculture. We've also brought in General Mills, SAS, as well as part of our SAS training that we provided the past 2 years of our organization. We brought in RSM, the Mankato Software Development Meetup, which is a club for adults in the Mankato area. So we had a joint meeting with them. We've also brought in Opsin Consulting as well as Optum Technology. And in the future, we're hoping to host Microsoft, Cloudera, and Tableau. So here's one of our academic professors here. That is Dr. Nanyang Lee. He was talking about the shape of big data. And at each of our bi-weekly meetings, we have about 50 or so members that are able to attend and hear about our industry speakers. But also we are now shifting from moving from industry speakers from only about once a month, and then on the other meeting for that month, we're going to try to do more of a workshop tutorial about learning some aspect of data science, machine learning, or artificial intelligence. So like I was saying, we have brought in SAS for a workshop for the past 2 years. The first year we held it, we learned about SAS Studio as well as SAS Enterprise Miner. So during the SAS training, 2 members from the SAS Cary, North Carolina team came up and taught 50 students about how to use SAS and their tools. This past year, this spring, we had SAS come up and they talked to us again about SAS Enterprise Miner as well how to use SAS Text Analytics. And I feel like a lot of the members that got a lot out of this workshop because they were able to learn such a valuable tool in data analytics. And we're hoping to bring them back again next year. So as part of the SAS workshop, we had a networking event where we brought in a lot of the university leaders, such as the president and the dean of our College of Computer Science, Engineering, and Technology. We brought in a lot of that also industry speakers that have came to our past meetings and provided funding for those meetings as well. In the future, we're hoping to host, or next year, I guess, we're going to be hoping the Midwest Undergraduate Data Analytics Competition. The past few years, it has been hosted at Winona State University, but now we'll be holding at Minnesota State University Mankato, and we're very excited for this opportunity. We're hoping to make it bigger and better by maybe incorporating some high school teams, an undergraduate section or a graduate level section, as well as a undergraduate section. And then also we have proposed an idea for a data science program, master's program here at Minnesota State University, and I feel like it's in the steps to being a process, and we're hoping to have that established next fall. And next, I'm going to bring it over to Parker, who will talk about our hackathons.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about some of the external competitions that DREAM members participate in. And if anybody doesn't know, a hackathon is a competition where you typically either get the data prior to the event or at the event. And it will be a data set provided by a local company sponsor, and then they also provide a list of like questions or problems for you to solve. And then the teams will put together a presentation, present their findings and how they solve the problems. And then there's various prizes and rankings given out. And so there's 3 particular hackathons that we participate in. Here you see a picture of one team that went to the Mini MUDAC hackathon last fall. This was sponsored by Mini Analytics up in the Twin Cities. And these 3 team members were awarded the Analytics Acumen Award. And then next, we have the Data Derby. So we participated in this competition for 2 years now, in 2017 and 2018. Last year, we sent 2 teams, and one of the teams received honorable mention, and then another team placed 3rd place. And then this year, we really saw an explosion in participation. and we had 5 teams go total. And out of there, we had 1 team take first place in the data-thon and data-gon categories. So there's actually 2 competitions that take place. One you prepare for in advance, and the second one you compete in once you arrive at the event. And then there was a first place in the advanced data-gon category, and then 2 second-place prizes on the data-thon and data-gon category. So out of the 5 teams that went, we had 3 teams place total and 5 different placements. Then we also get a lot of publicity through our local newspaper. So the reporter here is our campus news. And then we've also been featured in the Sun Current, which is a newspaper up in the Twin Cities. We have been put in there for our different hackathons and winning there, as well as our SAS workshop. And so that's a really nice way that we kind of get involved with community outside of the college too, and let people know kind of what we're up to and get some interest within our local Mankato community. And then we just wanted to touch on a few lessons learned as executive board members participating in DREAM. So one thing was figure out how to get creative and get students involved, how to construct our events so that students are getting maximum benefit from coming to them, and also being able to gear them towards freshmen and sophomores that might be kind of getting into their major coursework, as well as juniors and seniors that are going to be a little bit more advanced. And going on with that, using constructive criticism. So being able to take students' feedback and kind of change how we run the club and how we're structuring our different events so that they're getting the maximum benefit. Like Jeremy said earlier, last year we focused a lot on having guest speakers, and we had a lot of students come to us and say that it was really nice getting to network with them and hearing about what they do day to day in their jobs. They also wanted to get kind of their hands dirty and some actual work too, and learning some of the different software and techniques that we were talking about with these guest speakers. And so this semester we really focused on bringing in different professors or industry professionals that have been giving tutorials on various aspects of data science. So we've kind of been mixing it 50-50 with guest speakers and tutorials, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. And then other general things about organizing events. You know, the DREAM team put together the SAS workshop, which is a really big event for us. And just learning how kind of that works, structuring that and getting people hyped up and ready to come and excited and interested. And then EQ versus IQ was a big thing for us because through not only participating in DREAM, but also being on the executive board, we've learned a lot of skills that you don't necessarily learn in the classroom, but complement that classroom knowledge really well. And we feel like we're a lot more prepared to go out and participate in internships and full-time jobs and perform better than if we weren't participating in DREAM. And that kind of goes with the non-curriculum learning. Just the stuff that we're learning outside of our regular classwork has been really beneficial.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so then that would be our slideshow. I hope you guys kind of enjoyed learning a little bit about DREAM, how we work, how we function, and kind of what we do. We have our contact information up there if you guys do want to email us any questions, but then we are open for questions as well.
Well, thank you. That is great information. Thank you so much. It's fantastic to see the variety of groups who speak in those webinars and what you guys achieve. So I can see we have one question in the chat window, and if anybody else has questions, feel free to post them there, or I think we're a small group tonight, so you can also just start your microphone and ask your question. So I'll just read aloud the question that is here. What's a data gun, please?
Sure, I can answer that one. So the difference between the data gon and data-thon. So the data-thon is when you get the data in advance. So typically, like this semester, we got it 6 weeks in advance, and we had 6 weeks to kind of work through the data and answer the questions and create a presentation. The data gone was we showed up at the event, and they gave us a new data set that we hadn't seen and another set of questions. And so then we had 3 hours to work through that. So it was a smaller data set and a lot cleaner, but then it kind of gives you 2 different aspects of getting a bunch of time to work on a harder data set, as well as just kind of crunching in what you can get done in 3 hours.
Very good, thank you. And while we are waiting maybe for some more questions, I have one question for you. do you also do more one-to-one with students? A student who has more difficulty on a specific project, who would like to get maybe more guided resources or specific questions for developing whatever, it could be technical or not. But do you also give this type of guidance, or is it more general workshops, event management? How do you typically answer this type of request if they come?
Definitely. So like I said, we do have a big repository of information on our university page. And that can be, like I said, pretty hard to traverse through. But I have a pretty good idea of how it's organized. So when students do want to learn specific things, like we have different tutorials. So like if someone wants to learn, say, like R programming, like we have a link to a full R studio workshop and stuff like that. But then our advisor, Dr. Ajit Bugralia, really takes the lead when students really want to get involved. They really want to do a research project. If they don't really have their own idea, he'll pose really difficult questions for them and kind of give them a little jump start, but then kind of set them free and let them learn on their own and kind of figure out if that's the research they want to do or if that's not really the kind of thing they're looking for, and then they can kind of take it a different direction.
Okay. And do the companies, the private companies you work with, do they pitch you some projects too, does that happen?
So that's definitely something that we're looking to do in the future. We've always been talking about hosting an internal hackathon for just Dream members. But the difficulty with that is just finding an industry sponsor to pose a question, because when they do pose a question, they have to be willing to give us their data as well. But just with a lot of company policies and stuff, a lot of companies don't release data. So it's pretty hard to get somebody to come in like that. But otherwise, they just kind of, they pose questions during the meetings, and a lot of our meetings are very interactive. There's questions asked pretty much throughout the whole thing. We learn a lot, definitely just speaking with the industry people.
Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting because we had some groups talking in these webinars who were more providing services to companies. We had groups that were more oriented towards public organizations and data science for social or public good. So it's very interesting to see how each group finds its own organization and sustainability and structure, I guess. Thank you very much. So. I don't see any more questions here, so just wait a few more seconds, but I think we can transition to our next speaker. And I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation.
Awesome.
All right, so next speaker tonight is Timothy NeCamp. He's a fourth-year PhD student in statistics at the University of Michigan. And Timothy is co-president, co-leader of a STATCOM organization along with Evan Reynolds. And he's passionate about statistics and finding ways to harness data to positively impact the community. And Timothy, we're looking forward to hearing about your group.
Cool, thanks. Hello everyone, I'm Tim NeCamp, a PhD student at University of Michigan, and I can share my screen, and cool. Does everyone see that?
Yeah, we see it.
Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the organization I'm involved with and I'm co-president of, which is STATCOM, which stands for Statistics in the Community. So STATCOM actually started in 2006 under an ASA strategic initiative, and ASA is the American Statistical Association. And the goal of the initiative was to basically promote the development of student-driven programs that provide statistical consulting as a community service. And the first StatCom actually started in Purdue, at another university in Purdue. And then after the initiative, other StatComs kind of popped up, one at University of Washington, one at Cornell, one at Ohio State, and one at University of Michigan. So we've actually been around since 2006. But actually, in the recent years, StatCom and StatComs across universities is kind of becoming, I guess, less popular, or it kind of like its growth has slowed in the transitions from grad students to other grad students. And but for University of Michigan, actually, our growth has grown, has been like exponential over the last couple of years. And we've kind of had this new reinvigoration and tons of new projects. And yeah, and I think currently we are the biggest STATCOM organization across the US. So yeah, so that's kind of our origins and where we are now. So who are we? What do we do? So we're a volunteer statistical consulting group and a community outreach group. So basically we do volunteer-based statistical consulting. We're directed and operated by graduate students that are in the Department of Biostatistics at University of Michigan, statistics, and the program of survey methodology. We're technically run out of the School of Public Health, and the Department of Biostatistics is probably makes up our largest percentage of members. But we do have lots of members. I mean, I'm from statistics. We have lots of other members from statistics and program of survey methodology. And we also have, members in computer science. We have members in operations engineering, members in public policy. So we do kind of span the whole university, but mostly in biostatistics and statistics. And what we offer, what kind of consulting we offer, is we offer professional consulting to nonprofit communities, organizations, and local government groups. So basically any nonprofit in the community or local government group or not-for-profit organization could receive help from us. We partner with entities, I guess, outside of the university specifically as well. And all of our services that we do provide are free of charge. So the idea is maybe like an organization, like a nonprofit, has data that they're interested in analyzing or have questions that they want to answer with data, and they maybe don't have the skill set or the time or the people to analyze that data. And we can kind of step in as graduate students with these strong backgrounds in statistics and data analysis and data science and help them out. Yeah, and it's both beneficial to the community. So we provide help, obviously, to the community organization, and all of our goals are based off of what they want, but it's also beneficial to students, as you can imagine. Like similar groups that I've talked to before, providing, like, students doing the consulting themselves is like a really good real world experience for the students to get. So it's both beneficial to the university and to the community. So here's some examples of different services that we might provide. So we could advise and assist on statistical issues related to maybe surveying or sample design and analysis of surveys. We also maybe can provide graphical summaries or statistical methods for summarizing and presenting data. So maybe an organization has a ton of data and they just want some like summarization or visualization of that data. We can also interpret results of survey or interpret results of statistical analyses. We can develop statistical models. We can do trend analyses. I mean, basically anything data science related, we can provide. We mostly stay on the analysis side of things. So like visualization analyses, we do less of like data cleaning or like data organization or data storage things, mostly on the statistical analysis side of things. Here are some examples of some organizations that we've partnered with. So most of the organizations are around, so University of Michigan is in Ann Arbor, so they're around Ann Arbor or Washtenaw County, which is the county that contains Ann Arbor. So the food gatherers of Washtenaw County, which provide, food for lower income individuals. The Ann Arbor Public Schools, we partner with them, and specifically their education foundation. They're kind of trying to figure out how to allocate funding. We've helped them out with that. An adolescent health initiative out of Detroit we've helped with. The University of Michigan health system. So we don't work with the University of Michigan like professors themselves, but we've worked with social workers in the health system. And the health system, serves more than just University of Michigan people. And we help them evaluate community health needs. We've worked with the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, which is a foundation that's set up to, provide services to maybe older adults or lower income individuals. And they kind of make the funding decisions for these services. And, we've helped them make good decisions about where they should allocate funding. We worked with Catholic Social Services of Washtenaw County, who do like pro bono therapy appointments. We also worked with the United Way on a tax project. So there's some examples. I was just going to give, I guess, just to give it more context, and so to give you all a better taste of what kind of work that we do, I was going to maybe just quickly go through an example project, and kind of one of the coolest projects that I was involved with actually as well. So this organization I talked about before, the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, had a large amount of funding that they were given specifically to help older adults and adults that are 60 years or older in Washtenaw County, which is, like I said, the county here. And they really wanted to know what services they should provide and how they should allocate that funding and where are the highest areas of need for this population. And so they reached out to us and another organization at the University of Michigan, and they basically asked us to figure out a way to develop a survey and analyze the survey to determine which factors most associate with the quality of life of older adults in Washtenaw County. So like, what are the reasons behind lower or higher quality of life for individuals in Washtenaw County? So what did we do as an organization? So we helped first plan the survey development and administration. So we actually designed the survey, kind of using some people from survey methodology and reading some literature. We found a survey that was tailored towards older adults and their quality of life. And then we actually also administered the survey. We partnered, so we don't, as statisticians, we maybe aren't the best, or we don't have the time as much to like really go out there and deliver the survey to, all the respondents that we want to collect data on. So we actually partnered with another organization at the University of Michigan that's called the Community Technical Assistance Collaborator, which is out of the School of Social Work. And they were actually able to administer the survey for us. And we collected over 700 responses in Washtenaw County. And once we got that data, we analyzed that data. And using that data, we were able to determine, which subpopulations of Washtenaw County had the lowest quality of life. And determining that will help, inform the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation's decisions about, which subpopulations should they target with this funding they received. So we created a presentation and report for the community partners. So we actually not only reported the results back to the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, but we also reported it back to the different communities that we surveyed as kind of like a thank you for letting us, survey your population or letting us collect data here. We showed them kind of our results to help them become more informed about their community. And overall it was a great project, but this is kind of like a pretty good example of the type of work that we do. And the biggest, I guess, time that we spent and that we had our members working on was in the data analysis and the writing of the report and the presentation. So with all that in mind, so just some more administrative stuff. So how are we run? We are a student-led organization. So basically all of these projects, all the project finding, everything is run from the students. And we are volunteer and project-based. So we don't, pay any students or anything. It's all volunteer-based, and it's all project-based. So we do have like a large number of members, over 100 members, but number of members that are working on a project maybe are somewhere in like the 30 to 40 range each semester. So once we get a project, we send it out to the group and then find volunteers and maybe make up groups of like 5 to 6 STATCOM members to kind of work on that data analysis project. So we also have an administrative team that kind of oversees all this. There's student presidents, which is Evan Reynolds and myself, Timothy NeCamp. And we also have an executive board, which also help us deal with more administrative stuff. And Sharanya is there, Ina, Emily, and Stephen are all students on the executive board, and they're extremely helpful for taking care of other administrative stuff, dealing with other finding projects, maybe dealing with university constraints, etc. And they also all of us at the same time lead projects. So being on the executive board help us maybe understand projects better and lead those projects. So everyone on that list also leads individual projects in addition to dealing with administrative stuff. So what does a project team typically look like? Each project usually has 3 to 5 students. We have one student leader, so like a student who is maybe more knowledgeable of how STATCOM projects run, how to do consulting, and how to lead, is like leading that project. And then we always have a faculty advisor on a project, they're pretty hands off, but they serve as kind of like if anything goes wrong or if like, we are confused about what analyses to run or we need additional help, that faculty advisor is there as a useful resource. But most of the time, like, we have weekly meetings, and all those meetings are just with the students, and the faculty advisor is kind of on an as-need basis. Overall, also for administration stuff, we also, STATCOM as an organization does have 2 faculty advisors that oversee the organization, and they also help with university administrative stuff. So yeah, and then for going back to project team stuff, we have usually on average like 2 to 4 hours per week per student on a project, and usually projects are semester long, but oftentimes they can go into several, like multiple semesters or across a whole year, or even going into the summer. Which is, when we're working with graduate students, it kind of is nicer because we can, some PhD students can continue working on a project throughout the summer. In terms of funding, we actually don't really have that much funding. All of our funding is basically just to fund food for meetings. With like a semester meeting, we have food. We had t-shirts this year and posters if we ever present some of our work. But other than that, like I said, everything is volunteer-based, so we don't really have too much funding. But the funding for the food, t-shirts, and posters comes from both the Department of Biostatistics and the Michigan Institute for Data Science at the University of Michigan. Yeah. So how do we find projects? So there's several ways that we find projects. One of the more common ones is we just reach out to organizations. So we find local community organizations or nonprofits, and we just call or email them and tell them kind of what we are able to provide, and see if they could be in use of our services. We also have like a long list of contacts of previous people that we've worked with, and data is forever being collected by these organizations, maybe new years of data, maybe different data. And once they kind of have an idea of what kind of work we can do, and they maybe hopefully view that work as valuable and helpful to them, they maybe be a little bit more inclined to give us a second project. Recently, so like I said, we've had a recent growth over the last couple of years, and part of that growth has been attributed to this partnership with the Ginsberg Center, which is kind of like it's like a center at the University of Michigan that is kind of the middleman between the university and the community. So they have lots of community contacts. They're very in touch with the community. And they also have, lots of university contacts, and they kind of, like, undergraduates who maybe want to volunteer in the community or seek out volunteer opportunities, go through the Ginsberg Center and then find those opportunities with them. The nice thing about partnering with the Ginsberg Center is they're kind of a trusted entity in the community. So, just getting an email from a random student at the University of Michigan is not that conducive to, community partners wanting to reach back out to us. It's just a stranger from the university. But the Ginsberg Center, lots of community organizations trust that center. And so when the Ginsberg Center is able to promote what STATCOM does and tell them what kind of services we can provide, it's kind of like our foot in the door. And then those organizations reach out to us through the Ginsberg Center. So that partnership has actually increased our number of projects like twofold over the past year. And also this organization called the Community Technical Assistance Collaborative out of the School of Social Work also has a lot of community partner contacts. And working with them on different projects like the 60+ survey has been beneficial for us to find more projects and do meaningful work. And we also partner with other university organizations that are kind of connected through the Michigan Institute of Data Science. So what else do we do other than work on these projects? So definitely the projects are the main thing and are kind of our main purpose. But we also do a couple other things. For example, we host workshops in R for maybe some less statistically inclined social work collaborators. So that Community Technical Assistance Collaborative that I was talking about out of the School of Social Work. A lot of students in that group are less familiar with R and data analysis, and we've provided workshops for them to help them learn some R skills. We've also received training on different things that as statisticians, and data scientists, we're less familiar with. For example, like, how to enter, engage, and exit out of a community, and thinking about like when you go into the community and you work with community partners, what kind of things you bring to the table, how does that affect your interaction with the community, and how do you leave the community in a way that and work with community members and partners that is beneficial to both parties, and seeing it more of a partnership and less of like a outside entity coming in and interfering with the community. So being more aware of those kind of like biases and things that we bring in is something that we've never really thought about, and we had workshops and trainings on that. We also do occasional presentations, like poster presentations at different conferences, and we also have had some academic papers arise from projects, like that 60+ survey, the survey results we're actually turning into a paper to present those results. So occasionally, it's not the end goal. The goal is to help the community partner, but occasionally we do end with a paper because we maybe think that the work that we did should be out there and published. Recently, we've been pushing more towards like an educational outreach. So we've been actually providing like coding assistance and coding, like teaching coding to the youth of Washtenaw County. And this year, actually, we had our first symposium, our Data for Public Good Symposium, which brought together a bunch of different organizations at the university that are doing data science or any kind of data work for public good, and kind of started to bridge collaborations between those organizations. Some quick lessons learned from running STATCOM from my end. So one of the main things that we've learned to deal with is this recent growth I've been talking about. So we went, like I said, from 5 projects per year about to now around like 10 projects per year, which is a pretty significant growth. And we went from like 15 students volunteering each semester to now we have around 30 or 40 students volunteering. And also the number of student members has grown almost twofold as well. So we actually have 150 student members a part of STATCOM. This growth, has been great, and like it's been great because we've been able to help the community more and broaden our impact. But it's also been, it's difficult at the same time. And a couple things that we've done to help deal with this growth is we introduced actually those executive members of STATCOM. So it used to be just run by presidents, like one student president, but now we have an executive board to kind of help out with more administrative stuff. We've had a lot more student leaders, so actually like training more student leaders even outside of the executive board to help out with projects. And yeah, I guess just like overall like dividing responsibilities and like not putting all the responsibilities on the president has allowed us to kind of deal with this growth and expand, which is nice. Some consulting lessons that we've learned. So there's a lot of lessons that you learn as you work in statistical consulting world, and a lot of lessons that are much broader and different from just data analysis lessons. So for example, like, working with a partner, one of the first steps that you always should do is, understand the goals of the project and see what kind of questions that partner wants to answer with the data. Oftentimes confusion starts just from organizations not knowing what the community partner's goals and what questions they want answered explicitly. Also getting data, sometimes like, there's really cool ideas or really good questions that want to be answered, but the data is not there. The data is really messy, or it can't be shared, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of times working on these projects, it can go 2 months into the project before the data is even given. And sometimes that can be kind of difficult, but that's definitely part of the process. Kind of like I talked about before with dealing with recent growth, we've, kind of learned more leadership skills as we've grown and learned, how to better divide responsibilities. So, the STATCOM student president is not the bottleneck of the organization, and we can broaden our impact. One thing to always be aware of too is, how do we ensure these projects are actually are a partnership and beneficial to the community? So we've been thinking about like, how do we, survey or reach back out to community partners to make sure like our work was truly, truly beneficial to them. We don't want to be just some entity that goes into a community partner, takes their data, prints off some reports, gives it to them, and then that report is never used, or that report is completely unhelpful to the community partner. So we really want to make sure our work is impactful, and thinking about ways to ensure that is something that we've been thinking about and learning from. Also, one of the key things behind our success and our growth has been collaborating within and outside the university. So like I said, those organizations, the Ginsberg Center, Community Technical Assisted Collaborative, and also the Michigan Data Science team and Operations Engineering has provided, students from a bunch of different backgrounds to help on projects and to provide input and kind of to make our work more meaningful. So collaboration has been key. And then lastly, that there is definitely a need for this type of work. Like both the communities have the data and have the questions to be asked about that data, and so there's a need within the community. And we found, as we've been able to grow, that need is growing even more in this more data-driven world. And then also, there's a need within students. Our growth in student numbers has just shown that, like, students like doing this type of work. They like the real-world experience. They like the impact that they can have. And yeah, it's kind of been invigorating knowing that this need is both within the students and the communities. I was just going to highlight kind of a couple projects that we've been working on too, just to give it a little bit more context into the type of work that we do. So here's a project that we're currently working on. So this is with the Children's Center of Detroit. So the Children's Center provides behavioral therapy for youth in Detroit and lower income neighborhoods. And the way they provide therapy is that each child is assigned a clinician, and that clinician has basically, as that child is added that clinician's caseload. And so they have all this data about clinicians and their caseload. So one clinician might have 30 kids in their caseload, and another clinician might have like over 100 kids in their caseload. And that's just kind of based off of assignment and kind of based off of, the kid itself, like himself or herself. Like the kid might be, might only need to be seen for a month versus might need to be seen for a whole year. And that can cause the clinician's caseload to grow or shrink accordingly. And overall, the organization wanted to know, like, how does a clinician's caseload size affect the children that they see? How does it affect attendance, and how does it affect pay? And so they had all of this caseload data. So they had each clinician's caseload size, and they also had like the clinician's like attendance rates, the clinician's like time per appointment, the number of times each clinician saw each member of its caseload, and then also how much pay the clinician was earning. And they had that data and really needed some help analyzing it. So we've been stepping in to help them run some summaries and do these comparisons that they're interested in to start to get an idea of how caseload size either positively or negatively affects those outcomes that they're interested in. So we're in the process of doing that. It's a pretty cool project. Just one other project I'll highlight real quick is with the Detroit College Access Network. So the Detroit College Access Network provided college advisors in high schools. So I think, a bunch of high schools in Detroit got these new positions filled that were called college advisors, and that person's job was basically to give students advice on college. That's what a college advisor would do. So give advice on college. So like figure out how like students should take SATs, how students should apply, what schools a student should apply to, et cetera. Just any kind of college advice. And that's a specific person in that school for that. And some schools got the college advisor, some schools didn't. And the question that Detroit College Access Network had was basically, are these college advisors effective? Are they actually making any changes in the school? So they have, school data like college enrollment, SAT scores, FAFSA completion before the college advisor was enrolled and afterwards. And they wanted to use that data to see what the effect of these advisors were. Obviously, there's like, so there's initial analyses that we did, and we're evaluating the success, but there's obviously like some causal inference type questions that can be answered there. And so it's a pretty interesting project. And we're still in the midst of that, but we've given them some initial results, which have been promising. So I had a couple other projects that you can see here. I don't need to go through them all. This one, we're kind of running a survey and analyze survey results to see what broadband access is like in Michigan and Southeast Michigan specifically. Maybe certain areas have more broadband access than others. And, there's an organization that works on providing broadband access to those in need. And so they want to understand the need. Ozone House works with crisis calls. So people basically call in when they're in time of crisis. And they have a bunch of call data, and they basically wanted to know like when would be the best time to have the highest number of staff at the crisis center. So basically, what are the patterns and calls over both like a week, over like months, over the entire year, and based off of those patterns, how can they inform how many staff members they have at a given time. So they have data on the calls, and they wanted us to analyze that to figure out, the best staffing allocation. And there's some other projects that we've also worked with. So, we have plenty of projects. So, yeah, so I think the last thing is just contact information. So there's the names again, me, thanks for listening to me. Faculty leadership there that I mentioned. There's our email if you ever want to reach out to us. There's our website. So our website contains more projects, the members, other stuff. And we also recently had a publication in Amstat News, which kind of highlights our recent growth and talks about how we're dealing with it, and also hopefully inspires other universities to also grow and also continue the pursuit of statistics for the community. So thanks. I think I'll end there and leave this up. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Tim. Very interesting presentation. So we'll be waiting for some questions from the assistants. We have from the audience, we have the group chat open, and you can also just pop in the conversation and ask your questions. I have one question while we're waiting. How long do you typically work on projects? And I kind of have a sense that kind of depends, but you did mention also publishing papers on some projects, so it seems like those are pretty serious and also a big time investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the ideal project would probably be like throughout a semester. So we usually get projects at the beginning of the semester, and then hopefully try to wrap things up by the end of the semester, just because students' commitments like change drastically on a semester to semester basis. And I'd say like probably 50% of our projects are like semester wide, with maybe some like residual stuff happening at the end of the semester or later. But the other half, I would say, is very time varying. So like some projects have literally been like organization just wanted some help answering this question, and we like came in and like had 2 meetings, and then it was done after that. And then on the opposite spectrum was like that 60+ survey that I gave, or that I talked about. The 60+ one was I think like a year and a half maybe. So it was like 3 to 4 months of designing the survey, another 4 months of actually implementing the survey, and then another couple months of doing the analyses, and then we're actually still working on it to write a paper on those results. So it's pretty varying, yeah.
So we have 2 questions. The first one: what has been the most effective way you have found to reach out to the community?
Right. So I think that there's, with people that we already know, so partners that we have already partnered with, reaching out to them and seeing if they have more projects has usually been pretty successful. It's like I kind of talked about during the presentation, it's kind of daunting to just send an email, like cold call, just an organization, be like, hey, we can do this. You guys don't know us at all, but like we have these data analysis skills. That usually, oftentimes leads to a non-reply. So having your foot in the door in some way, whether you've already worked with them, and then the other way to have your foot in the door is by working with that Ginsberg Center I was discussing, where they already have a bunch of community partners that trust them. And, we explain to the Ginsberg Center what we can do. And then the Ginsberg Center explains to the community partners what we can do. And then kind of that gets sent back to us. But having that initial foot in the door has been the best way. And that's kind of how we've been able to double our size.
Okay, and what are some interesting insight or results you've uncovered in your project?
That's a good question. So I think I'm just trying to think of all of the projects we've worked on. So for that 60+ project, I don't know if it was necessarily interesting or insight. I guess it was kind of insightful, but basically like the areas of the county that had, were the like lowest income areas, and the areas with like the largest percentage of people of color were the areas that had like the lowest quality of life in their, senior citizen population. So it almost kind of reaffirmed like what the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation had already known, unfortunately. But I think having the data to back that up really like helped them be like, hey, we need to actually allocate a significant portion of our funding to these populations. So that's been interesting. I'm just trying to think. Now I'm like thinking of that call data project that we worked on, where we were working with the ozone house. We did find that, like, you know, around Christmas time, kind of like usual patterns that they see in these crisis centers, like around Christmas time or holidays and things, like the crisis calls go up. I think one of the coolest things that we did for them is actually we like created a prediction model for them, so they can literally just put in like a date or a week or a month, and they can see like what the estimated number of calls that they'll get that month or week will be. And I think they found that prediction tool actually really interesting. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I also find that organizations tend to, once you can do it and explain it in a nice way, they actually tend to prefer like the fancier analyses, like having the prediction model. Like Ozone House really liked that, despite its complexity. They really liked using that. And then for the 60+ survey, we created this regression, as opposed to just doing normal regression on the survey results. We like created this regression tree where you could kind of like follow a decision rule, like if they lived in this area or they maybe had like financial vulnerability, then they would have low quality of life. And like they like that tree and that visual and that kind of more complex analysis so much more than just like a regular regression. So that's been kind of nice too. I don't know if that answers you. I mean, there's a lot more I can talk about, but I hope that answers your question somewhat, James.
I was myself, the questions you pitched about also the physician workload and etc. was just raising curiosity too, and one wants to know already, but I think that's an ongoing research.
Yeah, that one we don't know. Yeah, we're still, that's been like a big data obtaining problem actually. So we're excited. And once we get the data, it's like a week and we have the results, which is nice, but it's sometimes a lot longer to get the data. So yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Timothy and Jeremy. Don't want to miss anybody. Alyssa and I think. So thank you, everybody, for your presentations. That was very professional, and we really do appreciate. And I missed Parker. Thank you to all our speakers. And this was our last webinar for this spring series. So we'll be back in the fall. We'll resume these student groups webinars in the fall. And if you know some organizations who might be interested in presenting, feel free to contact us at info@midwestbigdatahub.org. And if you want to also hear about our future events, you can feel free to check out our website, and you can also sign up to our newsletter, and this way you will be in touch